Welcome to episode 3 of the Social Web TV, the internet TV show that answers the question, who owns your data, with a simple 2-word answer, you do. And we are live on location at Facebook F8.
Sunny San Francisco.
What an historic day this is for the opening up of the social web.
Man.
My word.
You think about a year ago and what the people talking about open versus closed walled garden, and now you have this captivating keynote by Mark Zuckerberg all about the social web. I mean, that's the term he's using, right?
Yeah.
All these applications working together, data sharing inside Facebook, outside Facebook, across, and and clearly everybody else very excited about it too. This place is overrun. It's exciting.
Well, and also really driving the point home that the social web is made up of more than just one company. Very clearly talking about how Facebook is looking to map out part of the social graph, but the entire open web, the social web, is not something that any one company is going to own or control.
So I'm sure that most of our viewers have already probably read some news about this, but it probably wouldn't hurt to say a little bit of what actually did get announced here today. Really details fleshed out around something called Facebook Connect. Who wants to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you were on stage.
Yeah, so Facebook Connect, I think, is in some cases an evolution of Facebook Platform, which is what they launched at F8 last year. And with Facebook Platform, initially it focused on how you could go and run social applications inside of Facebook. Facebook Connect sort of looks at the opposite side of providing APIs so that you can go and access profile information from Facebook, friend information, activity information as well from other sites on the web. And then being able to go and use APIs to publish back activities, a little bit like what Beacon did, but all focused more around making sure the user understands what's going on with a very clear dialogue popping up, asking them what they want to share.
When we talk about that open social web ecosystem that we're all driving towards, where you've got identity, you've got social graph providers, and you've got activity aggregators, Connect speaks directly to that recipe, right? So it's saying, when you come to a site, you saw the examples, Dig and others, don't create yet another account, sign in seamlessly, and then figure out who your friends are that are there, what are they doing? They're even doing email hashes to look up who do you know who's on this site, who hasn't set up their own account. So really pretty exciting, very kind of the things we've all been working towards, and to see Facebook not only embracing that, but pushing it forward, I certainly think it's a pretty big day. That's why I'm wearing the shirt.
I was just going to say, it doesn't take all that much to get Joseph excited, but I do see that you're wearing a special t-shirt.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute, I am too?
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the companies that are already being announced as being part of the Facebook Connect launch.
Yeah, I was up on stage, did a quick few-minute demo of showing using Facebook Connect with movable type, so that a user can go to a movable type log running this plugin, log in using their Facebook account, see which of their friends have participated in a discussion already, leave a comment, have it use their privacy settings from Facebook for their profile photo, for their name, and then publish that back to their profile to sort of keep that virtuous cycle going of content discovery. So if Joseph goes and comments on a blog, I'm able to see that, and hopefully it's something that I'm interested in as well.
Yeah. And when you've got a site as big and thriving as Facebook, be able to create the kind of experiences that we've been talking about in this show and elsewhere, day one, go out and make it happen. You're going to get a whole bunch of people who get a taste of what it means to have your sites work together, to not have to sign it from scratch every time, and they're going to want more. And so all the open technologies that we're all working on, all of that I think is going to get a big boost when people really see how cool it is to not have to start from scratch everywhere you go.
Well, I think it's a really interesting time as well. One of the reasons why we have this TV show is that the pace at which this stuff is developing is really fast. We also saw this week that MySpace is going to become an OpenID provider.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's really interesting to me because not only is MySpace going and acting as a provider, which is something that, I mean, a lot of people criticize big companies for only acting as a provider, but MySpace did a little bit more on top of that. So if you log into a site with a MySpace OpenID, it's also moving around the bits necessary to bridge into data availability. So what you're able to do is have a user log in with a MySpace OpenID and then access some of their profile information and more information about them from MySpace. And I think this whole bridge of OpenID and data availability is what we're going to see more and more as we continue to move forward on the social web.
Because that's really what users understand. It's, hey, I show up, I've already got an account, I've already got some data. Let me tell you, I already use MySpace, I already use Facebook, I already use LinkedIn, or whatever it is, right? It's like, let's pick up where we left off, let's not start over.
And I think it's a kind of a confusing time as well, though, because if you try to make sense right now of Facebook Connect relative to Google Friend Connect, relative to MySpace data availability, there are some real differences between them, and yet if you just look at them together, it's a really clear sign that there's some big change coming, and that world of just simple walled garden model is quickly going to be history.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear they've all gotten the message loud and clear, and they're all, doing their own thing in their own way to help get there. But I think what's amazing, and certainly, from Plaxo, when we've been talking to Facebook about this, the way they say it and the way they conceptualize it is exactly the right way of doing it.
Well,
and of course, privacy and their own technology and so forth is going to continue to evolve. But as people have all seen the vision and are all trying to figure out how to get there, that's that momentum that all of this is going to ride on.
Joseph, you were talking about this last week a little bit in terms of some of the building blocks for the social web. And I think that's something that's important to think about here, where these companies, where part of their approach might be different, but they're starting to reuse some of those underlying pieces to get to the same end goal point.
Yeah. I thought it was actually sort of telling in two of the demos, Dig and 6apart, you had this parallelism of log in with your OpenID or log in with Facebook Connect.
Right.
And I think what that shows is there's going to be lots of different ways to build these technologies, and some will probably come together and some will end up diverging, but they're all trying to sail that same problem, that same pain point, put the user in control, not make them start over, and that to me is a really good sign. There doesn't, it's such early days to think that there'd be exactly one way to do it, but the fact that everyone's trying is what made the web successful in the first place, and it's what's going to make the social web successful.
And I mean, I really do hope that we'll see Facebook embrace OpenID for Facebook Connect as well, just like MySpace did with their OpenID plus data availability.
That's right.
And I don't know if you guys have more you want to talk about on Facebook, but probably before we leave that topic, probably worth noting a really big change. I think Facebook as a company has learned a lot this last year. Mark talked a lot about that in the keynote, learning from the lessons of the last year. And that beacon privacy fiasco in some ways, I think informed a lot about how this is being rolled out. So rather than just launch something out there, potentially getting a lot of backlash and controversy, real strong emphasis on privacy or dynamic privacy and on market reaction, and then rolling this out formally this fall.
Yeah, so both of us have been writing a lot of code to work with Facebook Connect, and that's stuff that will continue to trickle out as they really roll out to people, and gives us a chance to really get it back, and they've been very receptive to feedback, so it'll probably continue to evolve.
I think one of the upsides that at least we've seen is we've actually written very little code to go and integrate Facebook Connect. What we demoed took about a day and a half to create.
Awesome.
It's all done via JavaScript APIs, so it was something that was really simple. And to me, that's one of the other interesting things about Facebook Connect and the JavaScript APIs, which I think more details will come about as Facebook releases them, but sort of looking at how the API model of the web continues to evolve.
Right. Everyone's learning from everyone else. There's this amazing coevolution of all these building blocks and all these communities. It's all the same people, and the whole the process itself is evolving as well as the individual pieces.
So that might be a good segue into one of the other interesting announcements. It's actually an announcement that by the time the show airs will have been made by our David Recordon up at OSCON.
You're in a lot of keynotes these days.
Yeah, flying a lot right now.
Yeah.
But it was also mentioned today at F8, which is the formation of a new organization. So David, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, today at F8, Benjamin Ling talked about how Facebook is going to be committed to supporting the Open Web Foundation and also going to be going and contributing to the Open Web Foundation. And so this is something which I'll be talking about at OSCON tomorrow morning up in Portland, but by no means am I the only one involved. This is something that's really come together by 40 to 50 different people, a variety of different companies, and really trying to go and solve a pain point that various communities have been running into the past few months, past year, where the time to go and create an open specification is dramatically decreased. OAuth took 9 months from the time that it had a final spec to Google shipping it. I think it was actually 9 months from when they started to work on it to Google shipping it.
Yeah. And OpenID was 3 years, and even that's pretty successful.
Well, yeah, and I mean, OpenID came much earlier in that evolution.
See that pace of progress,
exactly.
Right?
So seeing how it's becoming faster and faster.
Yeah.
And these communities, I think they really need a way to have an overarching community that can help tie them together, as well as sort of a process and a legal framework which makes it possible for big companies to get involved and support these technologies.
Yeah.
One of the things we don't have for open specifications on the web are clear things like copyright licenses or source code, or sort of the equivalent of what we have for source code in terms of source code licenses. So the Open Web Foundation is really going to try to help provide a means for these communities to come together, to work under an IP regime which can be understood and which can be agreed upon by a lot of different companies.
That has a big implication. I mean, I remember back in the day how much time you spent running around with lawyers about OpenID and trying to get that finished. And you know, the hard part should be getting people together, agreeing on the standards, writing the code. But in many cases, the hard part is getting all the companies careful with it, figuring out the framework to shepherd it. And if we have to make another foundation for every new building block that comes along, I mean, something we say on this show a lot, right? There's going to be a lot more building blocks even beyond what we've already built.
And that was
getting that taken care of once is so important.
That was something we were already seeing starting to happen, where, I mean, had the OpenID Foundation, the Open Social Foundation is now being created.
And it's like, what do you do with OAuth?
What do you do with OAuth, portable contacts, all these other things?
You can't keep doing it.
So I mean, it's certainly not the first foundation. We're certainly going to make some mistakes along the way, but sort of very much taking the open source model of going and borrowing a few pieces from the things that have come before us, mixing them back together in a way that we think will work, and really engaging the community to help drive this thing forward.
Cool, well, good luck with that keynote tomorrow. I know, Joseph, you'll be up there shooting some video for our TV show.
Always working.
What can I say? A really epic episode 3. This is a big week, and I think there's more good stuff to come.
Absolutely.
Please join us next time on The Social Web TV!